So imagine holding the #1 spot on Google for your absolute most important keyword.
Right, the absolute dream scenario.
Yeah. I mean, you have millions of backlinks, flawless technical SEO, and organic traffic has basically just been pouring in for years. You feel like you've won the digital real estate game.
You're untouchable. Or, well, you think you are.
Exactly. Because then, literally overnight, you check your analytics, and your traffic is dropping.
Ouch. Yeah, that is a gut punch.
So you run a search to see what's going on,
Yeah.
and there, sitting at the very top of the page, is an AI overview generating the complete perfect answer.
Yep.
And the source it's citing. It completely ignores your massive digital empire, just to, quote this tiny, obscure blog sitting somewhere on page 2. Anyway, welcome to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me. And I have to say, that exact scenario you just described, it is playing out across, like, almost every industry right now.
It's crazy.
It really is. It is causing this massive reevaluation of how digital visibility actually works in the real world.
Totally. So today, for everyone listening, we are pulling from some absolutely fascinating excerpts from a source called The Art of AI Citation, from ranking to selection.
It is a great read.
It really is. And our mission for you today is to decode a very specific mystery. We want to figure out how answer engines and AI overviews actually choose what to cite.
Right, because the rules have changed.
Completely changed. If you create content, manage a brand, or honestly, if you just want to understand how the internet is rewiring itself right under our feet, you really need to know that the old rulebook is effectively obsolete.
Yeah, the paradigm has fundamentally shifted. We've gone from search engines simply retrieving a list of relevant links to answer engines actively reading, extracting, and synthesizing information on the fly.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because there is a massive myth buster right at the top of our source material.
Oh, the ranking myth.
Yes. The prevailing myth out there is that if you maintain a high ranking on a traditional search engine, the AI will just naturally cite you as its primary source.
Which makes sense logically, right? But it's totally wrong.
Right. The reality is just because you rank highly does not mean the AI is going to give you the time of day.
Exactly. Which forces us to look at the actual mechanics of how an AI system builds an answer. And the source details what it calls the two-stage pipeline.
The two-stage pipeline.
Yeah. This is the core architectural difference between old search and new AI citations. Stage 1 is retrieval, and stage 2 is selection.
Okay, let's break down that first stage, retrieval. The text notes that traditional SEO actually still heavily influences this part of the process, right?
It does, yeah. Think of retrieval as the AI casting a net to gather a pool of potential candidates to answer a user's prompt.
Okay.
To even get into that net, you need the foundational elements of traditional SEO. The text mentions factors like crawl health, index status, and authority signals.
Okay, for anyone who might not be in the technical weeds every single day, let's clarify those terms really quick.
Sure. So crawl health simply means a search engine bot can actually navigate your website's code without hitting errors or dead ends.
Makes sense?
Index status just means your page is actually saved in their massive database. I mean, if you aren't in the catalog, you obviously can't be found.
Right, you don't even exist to them.
Exactly. And authority signals usually refer to things like how many other reputable sites link to yours. The AI needs a baseline of trust before it even considers reading your content.
So your high ranking and strong SEO gets you into that initial retrieval pool.
Yes. But getting into the pool isn't the finish line anymore.
It's barely the starting line. Let's use an analogy here. I like to think of it kind of like getting into an exclusive club.
Oh, I like this.
So traditional SEO gets you past the bouncer and into the club. You're in the building.
Right.
But AEO, answer engine optimization, that is what actually gets you invited onto the VIP stage where everyone is looking.
That captures the dynamic perfectly, because stage 2, selection, is where the criteria completely flip. Well, once the AI has its pool of candidates in the club, so to speak, it literally stops caring about your overall domain authority. It stops counting your backlinks.
Yeah, really, it just ignores them.
Pretty much. It starts analyzing the text itself for alignment, extractability, and evidence. The text explicitly states, and this is a great quote, "Rankings get you considered. Alignment and proof get you cited."
Wow. Alignment and proof get you cited. So a mid-authority page could hypothetically beat a massive high-authority brand if the smaller page is just structured better.
Every single time. What's fascinating here is that we have to look at the mechanism of large language models to understand why. And AI is operating under severe computational constraints and latency
Okay,
latency requirements.
it has to be fast.
Exactly. It has basically milliseconds to construct an answer for the user. It does not want to expend processing power parsing a rambling 5-paragraph anecdotal story about the history of a topic before finally getting to the actual data.
It just wants the goods.
Right. It prefers a source that minimizes computational friction.
Which brings us to how the AI actually defines good structure. And it's heavily tied to a concept the source calls summary shape.
Summary shape, yes.
The text argues that the AI cites pages that physically mirror the shape of its own output.
This goes deep into how large language models generate text. They are predicting the next token or word based on probability and instructions.
Okay, so it's a math game.
Essentially. When a user asks a query that requires a comparison, the AI's internal prompt instructions often require it to output structured data, like a markdown table.
Oh, okay.
So to populate that table, the model scans its retrieved context window, those documents we talked about earlier.
So if it has to read unstructured rambling text, it has to work a lot harder to figure out what goes into the rows and columns of its own table.
Exactly. The probability weights get messier, and it takes way more compute power to extract the variables. But if the AI finds a source that already has the information formatted in an HTML table,
It's a perfect match.
it is. The token prediction is highly probable and incredibly fast. The AI takes the path of least computational resistance. So if the AI is building a list, it seeks out list-shaped sources. If it needs a crisp definition, it seeks out definition-shaped paragraphs.
I have to push back on this, though.
Sure.
Because I've spent years watching digital marketers build these massive 10,000-word multimate guides. You know the ones?
Oh, absolutely. The definitive guide to everything strategy.
Right, and that was the gold standard. The idea was to cover every possible angle of a topic on one giant page to capture maximum traffic. Are you saying that entire strategy is actually a liability now?
According to this source material, yeah, it is highly vulnerable. The text lays down a very clear rule. Semantic alignment beats topic coverage.
Okay, let's define semantic alignment in this context for everyone listening.
It basically means how tightly and exclusively your content matches the specific intent of the user's query.
Give me an example.
Well, consider an ultimate guide to project management software. It probably tries to cover like 10 different user intents. It has a section on troubleshooting, a section on pricing, a section on the history of agile methodology, and a section on team building.
Right, it's a Swiss Army knife.
Exactly. But an AI summary is rarely a Swiss Army knife. It is usually a scalpel. It's focused tightly on one specific intent requested by the user.
So it doesn't want the whole knife.
No. If the user asks for a troubleshooting fix, your broad 10,000-word page will often lose the citation to a short, maybe 500-word page that covers nothing but that one specific troubleshooting fix.
Wow.
Yeah. The AI evaluates the semantic density of the page. A page that is 100% aligned with the single intent is computationally safer to cite than a page where the intent is diluted across 10 different topics.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because amidst all this talk of neural pathways and token prediction, the source grounds the strategy in something deeply human.
The careful editor test.
Yes, the careful editor test.
It is a brilliant filter, honestly. You just ask yourself, if a meticulous human journalist was writing an article and needed a quick, verifiable fact, would they cite your page?
Right. Or would they look at your content, see a lack of hard data, no clear methodology, and just an abundance of marketing fluff, and decide to look for a better source?
Exactly. The logic is that answer engines are literally programmed to mimic the discerning standards of a careful human editor. If a human wouldn't trust it as a definitive reference, the machine won't either.
That is such a phenomenal gut check for anyone creating content. If you're sitting there looking at your screen, wondering why a competitor is getting the AI citation when you know your product is better, you need to run that test.
You really do.
In fact, let's actually go to the clinic on this. The text outlines 6 specific reasons why competitors win these citations over technically superior products.
It is a painful diagnostic, I'll admit, but totally necessary.
So what's the first one?
The first reason a competitor wins is simply that the answer is buried too late in the text.
Which ties right back to latency and computational friction. If the AI has to dig through 3 scrolls of your web page to find the actual answer, you lose.
Right.
But if your competitor put the direct answer in the very first paragraph, they win.
Exactly. Now, the second reason is a subtle but critical distinction in how we write. Your page might just be about the topic instead of directly answering the question.
Can you give me an example of that difference?
Sure. Let's say the query is, why is my car engine overheating?
Okay.
A page that is just about car engines might discuss thermodynamics, radiator design, and maybe mention overheating somewhere in a long, flowing paragraph.
Right. Very educational, but slow.
Exactly. But a page designed to answer the question will have a clear heading that says, the top 5 reasons your engine is overheating, followed by a structured list. The AI wants the answer, not a dissertation on the whole topic.
That makes total sense. Now, the third reason competitors win is missing the proof layer. The source defines this as making claims without numbers, constraints, or methods.
This is huge. AI systems are designed to heavily prefer reference-safe, verifiable information to avoid generating hallucinations.
So no empty marketing speak.
Right. If your page simply claims, our software is the fastest on the market, the AI just sees an empty, unverifiable assertion.
But what if your competitor provides the proof?
If your competitor's page states, our software processes 1 terabyte of data in 1.2 seconds, benchmarked across 500 enterprise servers, they have provided the proof layer. The AI will cite the proven claim over the empty boast every time.
Good to know. Okay, reason number 4 is that the content is structured for traditional SEO, not for reuse. We're basically talking about keyword stuffing versus that clean, extractable shape sorter structure we discussed earlier. Right?
Exactly. Look, if you are writing for a web crawler that merely counts keyword frequency, your sentence structure often becomes super convoluted.
Yeah, we've all read those paragraphs that mention affordable plumbing in Chicago 5 times.
Exactly. But if you are writing for a machine that needs to extract a logical argument or a data point in milliseconds, clarity and brevity become your most important assets.
And reason number 5 is fascinating to me. You are too promotional. The text emphasizes that the system actively selects neutral, reference-safe sources.
Let's think about this from a human perspective.
Sure.
Imagine you are getting advice from a friend. Or actually, imagine reading a Wikipedia article to learn about the history of architecture. And midway through the second paragraph, the text suddenly tries to sell you a timeshare in Florida.
It completely shatters your trust instantly.
Right. That's a massive red flag.
And it triggers the exact same red flag for the AI.
Yeah.
If your informational page is heavily layered with aggressive sales pitches, pop-up triggers, and biased superlative language, the AI classifies it as unsafe for a neutral summary.
So what's the fix?
The source offers very direct advice here. Move your sales messaging to dedicated landing pages and keep your evidence and informational pages clean. Keep the evidence clean. I love that. And the final reason, number 6, is missing obvious follow-up questions.
Right.
Like if someone asks about the average cost of buying a house, they naturally want to know about closing costs or property taxes next.
Yeah.
The AI anticipates the user's journey, and it obviously prefers sources that also anticipate that journey.
Exactly. So having diagnosed why we lose citations with those 6 reasons, the text transitions to the cure. How do we actually build an architecture that the AI actively wants to cite?
The playbook.
Yeah.
It starts with something the source calls the citation gap audit. What I really appreciate about this approach is that it prevents you from just throwing resources at the wall. You don't just guess what's wrong.
No, the methodology is highly structured. You begin by, isolating a fixed set of about 25 to 100 queries that are absolutely critical to your business.
Okay.
And you track these specific queries weekly. When you discover a gap, meaning you are not getting the citation, you must classify that gap into one of 3 distinct categories.
Category 1 is eligibility.
Right. An eligibility gap means you aren't even making it into the AI's initial retrieval pool. You aren't being considered.
You're not in the club.
Exactly. If this is your gap, applying all those cool AI formatting tactics won't help you at all. You need traditional SEO fixes. You have to address crawl errors or build the baseline authority required to just rank in the top echelon.
Okay. Then category 2 is selection. And honestly, this is the one that really stings.
It is by far the most frustrating gap. Selection means you are being considered. You are in the retrieval pool. You might even be ranking on page 1 of the traditional search results.
Right.
But the AI scans your content and deliberately decides to bypass you for someone else.
Ouch.
Yeah. This is where you need answer engine optimization fixes. You need to strip out the fluff, add the verifiable proof layer, and tighten your semantic alignment.
And finally, category 3 is conversion.
A conversion gap means you actually won the citation.
Yeah.
The AI selected your content and linked to you. But the users aren't clicking through, or if they do, they aren't taking any meaningful action on your site. For a conversion gap, you don't rewrite the core information, you need to improve the user experience. You add clearer next steps, a relevant tool, or just a better bridge to your product.
The absolute golden rule from the text here is that you must fix these gaps in that exact sequential order. Eligibility, then selection, then conversion.
It is crucial.
I mean, I can just imagine the nightmare of a team spending 50 hours a week trying to optimize the conversion rate of a page that isn't even technically eligible to be retrieved by the AI in the first place.
Oh, that happens far more often than you'd think. You really have to diagnose the correct gap.
Let's dig into the specific tactical elements the source recommends for fixing that selection gap, because they offer actual page elements you can add today.
Yeah, let's get into the tactics.
First up, they suggest adding an answer block at the very top of your content. We're talking 2 to 3 lines, a direct answer to the core question, perhaps including a short constraint or rule.
You are essentially doing the computational work for the AI. You are handing it a prepackaged, highly probable token sequence.
Next, they suggest using what they call citation magnets. These are elements that naturally fit those summary shapes we talked about earlier. A concise summary table, a clear step-by-step numbered list, maybe a quick diagnostic checklist.
And perhaps the most impactful tactic they mention is adding a how we know section.
Oh, I loved this part.
It's so smart. The text notes that appending just 3 to 5 bullet points explaining how you gathered your information, your testing methodology, or why your authors are credible authorities can fundamentally transform the trust level of the page. It makes your claims verifiable.
So instead of just maintaining a chaotic blog where you write about whatever trends are happening, the source outlines 5 highly specific page types you should be building out. They refer to this as the citation stack.
The citation stack, yes. The data suggests that across almost all industries, AI citations tend to cluster around these 5 specific formats.
Let's run through them.
The first is the definition and explanation page. And this isn't a rambling history. It's clean definitions, clear examples, and specifically addressing common misconceptions about a term.
The second format is how-to and steps. This requires clear chronological ordering, expected timelines for each step, and crucially, troubleshooting advice for when a step goes wrong.
The third is the comparison page. As we discussed, this demands a fair, objective table, but it also requires scenario-based recommendations.
What does that mean?
It means you don't just list features. You say, choose tool A if you are a startup needing agility, choose tool B if you are an enterprise needing compliance. Give the AI clear decision rules to cite.
Oh, that's incredibly helpful for the AI. Fourth is the evidence and data page. This is where you house your first-party data, your rigorous methodology, and your industry benchmarks. This feeds the AI's need for the proof layer.
And the fifth element of the stack is support and ownership. This covers the post-purchase experience, maintenance guides, problem resolution, and explaining the technical reasons behind why an error occurs.
If we step back and look at the whole citation stack, what becomes incredibly clear is that this new era of writing isn't about volume.
Yeah.
It isn't about producing more content. It's about structuring content for maximum extractability.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the definitive insight. If your page can be logically parsed, verified, and reused by a machine in a fraction of a second, you secure the citation.
But, that introduces a massive challenge for anyone running a business.
How so?
Well, if we implement these answer blocks, these tight tables, and these neutral tones, how do we actually measure success? Because getting cited by an AI doesn't always result in a traditional click-through to your website.
That's true.
The user might just read the AI's synthesized summary right there on the results page and leave. So we have to learn how to measure the unseen.
The text provides a really solid framework for this, actually. It outlines 4 specific key performance indicators that teams need to track.
Let's walk through them. Number 1 is citation rate. That is just the percentage of your tracked, prioritized queries where your domain successfully gets cited by the AI.
Right. Simple enough.
Number 2 is citation share. That calculates your total citations divided by the total number of citations the AI gave out across that entire query set.
And number 3 is where the real insight lives. Competitive citation share. This measures your citations specifically against your top 3 or 4 direct competitors.
Which brings up a critical question. The source specifically warns against a very common pitfall here. Why is tracking just our own citation count a dangerous trap? Like if I log in and see my brand citations went up from 50 last month to 60 this month, my instinct is to celebrate.
It feels like a win, definitely. But context is everything. Consider the mechanics of the AI engines themselves. They are constantly updating, and they are often expanding how many citations they provide in their overviews. Let's say you gained those 10 citations. But what if the engine dramatically increased its overall citation output, and your top competitor gained 50 citations in that exact same time period?
Oh, wow. So the pie got bigger, my slice got slightly bigger, but my competitor took half the pie.
Precisely the danger. Your raw citation count increased, giving you a false sense of security, but your actual share of voice in the market shrank. You are losing ground and influence. That is why competitive citation share is the only true metric of visibility.
That is a harsh reality check. And the fourth KPI rounds it out. Outcome lift.
Outcome lift.
This means tracking the actual changes in conversion rates and lead quality on the pages you upgraded to this new format. Because, as the text points out, answer engine optimization wins often manifest first as sheer visibility and brand influence, and only later translate into tangible traffic and conversions.
You have to be patient.
Right, you have to be patient enough to track both the leading indicators of influence and the lagging indicators of revenue.
It really requires a much more sophisticated approach to analytics than just, counting daily page views.
Absolutely. So what does this all mean? We've covered an immense amount of ground today. We started with the realization that the digital real estate grab of the last 20 years, the era of the rambling, keyword-stuffed SEO article, is pretty much over.
It really is.
We are entering an era dictated by extractability, verifiable proof, and precise semantic alignment. We have to adapt to the logic of the machine, providing the exact structural shapes it needs to reduce computational friction. We have to audit our gaps meticulously and measure our success not just by our own growth, but by our competitive share. Because, as the source so brilliantly summarizes, when your page can be reused in seconds, it gets cited for years.
It is a profound shift in how knowledge is organized and distributed, and it actually leaves me with a final thought for you to ponder.
Lay it on us.
Well, we've spent this entire deep dive analyzing how the future of digital visibility relies on making our content perfectly structured, rigidly neutral, and highly extractable. We are optimizing our words so a machine can easily parse them.
Right.
But if we follow this logic to its absolute extreme, what happens to the human voice? What happens to storytelling, to nuance, to the messy but beautiful way people actually communicate? Are we basically optimizing ourselves out of being writers and into just becoming human database entry clerks for the AI?
Wow. We went from trying to dominate the billboard to wondering if we're basically just painting by numbers. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Take care.